So I'm Heather Smith, and welcome to the Accounting Apps Podcast, exploring the accounting and business apps community. Today, I'm joined by Sarah Lawrance. Sarah, you describe yourself as an industry disruptor and the founder of CEO of Hot Toast, a new breed or bread, a new breed of accounting firms that focuses on growing companies in the creative and tech startup industries. Welcome to the show, Sarah. How has your week been?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. What an intro, Heather. My week has been good. We're only at Tuesday, but my week has been really good. Thank you.
Fabulous. I'm pleased to hear that. So, can we start by talking about your journey to becoming a CPA? Sarah, can you walk us through your journey of ditching Barbie, watching Business Sunday as a child, to becoming a certified practicing accountant?
Yeah, wow. Okay. Um, so I let's go back. I was born in Wagga Wagga and I grew up on the Central Coast, and my dad was a small business owner. And so I was very close to his business. And so I always knew at some stage that I probably wanted to be in that space as well. Um, for me, though, I think, I started, gosh. I decided to do commerce, I think because I probably wanted to push more into that entrepreneurial space, then ended up in a finance degree and then ended up with an accounting degree. I started in public practice on the Central Coast in audit, where I had the most phenomenal mentor, Joe Highway, at the time. And I think I can probably, there's a through line between the way that she treated me and the way that she mentored me and my success to a certain level into this industry. I think she's probably one of the first very early role models of what women in business and women in accounting can look like and how we can basically all lift each other up together. I remember being an 18-year-old girl and being dragged to SMSF conferences, and Jo was the only female up on stage at that time. And we were basically some of the only females in that room at that time. So, and she just knocked it out of the park consistently through that period and still does to this day. So, so that was a really good, that was just such a good starting place for my career. And whilst she was a great mentor, audit just wasn't for me. And so at 18, I kind of thought, well, where is the most exciting in industry that I can think of? And I thought, well, TV and production. So I ended up at Film Australia in a management accounting role. And really, again, my first experience of being an accountant that wasn't just focused on the finance department and the accounts department, but how can you basically partner with other departments, i.e. the production department, to help them with the financials. So then jumped to London, did 5 years in London, ended up at Ewan McGregor's and his mate's production company for 5 years. That was such a great experience. Again, very much part of the team, a very collaborative environment where, again, the accountant wasn't the person that sat in the room by themselves, but they were part of the team. They were just as involved as the producers and the directors and the camera people. And also, that kind of really gave me the opportunity to grow out my skill set as well. So I kind of looked across the business in that role as well into operations and how to scale businesses internationally and how to set up business partnerships internationally and how you could work together to drive business success. And so that was a couple of really formative years in the UK and such a great learning experience under those guys. Then I came back to Australia after meeting an Aussie boy in an Aussie pub in Fulham at an Aussie football party. Yep, go to the other side of the world to meet an Aussie. And we came back because his visa ran out. And we ended up back in Australia, back in Sydney, and I ended up in kids TV, working with High Five and Bananas in Pajamas in production accounting, and then knew I wanted to get back into the commercial space. So I ended up working for a really great, fast growth startup in the production and advertising space. And again, very much like London, kind of traversing different parts of the business in operations and strategy and whatnot. So that was everything up until Hot Toast.
That was very, very, very exciting. And I think I wanted to actually be an actress, but I stopped at accountant because I think it was further ahead on the alphabet.
You still can, Heather. You still have time.
Absolutely, absolutely. My uncle retired and became an actor and appeared in The Great Gatsby. So that's
and
my.
you know what? You don't want to be an actress anymore, Heather. You want to be an influencer, and you're already that. So
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. And it was extraordinary to hear your career. And I think, like, for the global listeners, a lot of Australians, we consider almost going to the UK or going overseas for a few years an essential part of our personal growth and personal development. So many of us, it's like you literally graduate and then go overseas, just like what you did there. So can you describe to us the inspiration for founding Hot Toast?
So I was at my last role, FC CFO role there, and I was working really long hours, and I just I got to the point where I just decided, if I'm going to do this for somebody else, why am I not doing this for myself? So, and at that time, that was 8 years ago, and I felt like there was still quite an opportunity and a space in the industry to push into where the traditional accountant or the traditional bookkeeper wasn't naturally moving at that stage 8 years ago. So that's why I went to the market and was like, okay, well, CFO services firm, outsourced finance function. If I can provide this level of service in a small to medium business, why can't this work in the public practice space? And then I also tick off a box around, wanting to own my own business, because I'd always wanted to do that. So there's nothing behind the name Hot Toast. It was definitely done in a pub with my creative mates. I definitely came from an industry where there was, names of businesses like Biscuit and Furlined and all these other names. And I thought I wanted to align myself as closely as possible to the industry, so it felt like an extension of them, as opposed to like being like a Lawrence and Lawrence or whatever version of that it wasn't. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just was very mindful coming from the advertising space around branding and positioning and wanting to feel like I was part of their team. So that's why I was really intentional around the name and the branding after that.
So fun and creative branding. Do you like eating hot toast?
I love that, Heather. It's better than cold toast. Is that the right answer?
Do you have lots of hot toast instruments? Those like old separators for the toast?
Oh,
I don't know whether they have them here. In England, you have lots of instruments with sledges in them for the toast to keep it hot. But
oh, I love that.
So, Sarah, you describe yourself as a CFO. Can you share with our audience what a CFO does? What does a typical week look like for you? Are you touching tax? And how are you helping these companies grow? Maybe that's too many questions.
Yeah. So look, I'll start with, I was definitely doing a lot more CFO work when I first started out. It was only me initially for the first couple of years, and again, that was really intentional. I kind of didn't really want to grow that much. I was quite happy being a consultant and kind of, doing the bookkeeping side of things and then kind of doing that advisory side of things. And so it's only been in the last couple of years that we've really rounded out all of our service offerings around Hot Toast. So now we do everything from bookkeeping to CFO to also tax as well. But a normal week looks like to me, look, it's a combination of certain things. I've tried to be more disciplined as I've got older so that I can be more effective with people. But I take the position in a couple of my clients as their CFOs. So with that title comes certain things that need to happen. So advisory meetings. So for instance, I'll give an example of one of our fast startups. So we tend to work with quite rapidly growing and scaling businesses. So I've helped clients scale from 2 to say 20 million in a couple of years. And my role as the CFO on that journey will change depending on where they are at that growth stage. So I'll tend to be really hands-on at the start, working really closely with the founders, probably in the war room with them around strategy and execution, helping them with their reporting requirements, making sure that the finance department is set up for scale, and then keeping them accountable as well, and then kind of checking in at those quarterly meetups. And then, as they grow, it's about kind of making sure that we hire the right people to kind of build up that finance and accounts team around them so that, again, they're set up to scale and they can kind of, they can kind of succeed. So, it can mean anything from, building out reportings and dashboards and workflows to strategy to raising capital to having just really healthy conversations with clients and being that sounding board for them, keeping them accountable. So, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. I get a real kick out of helping founders do that and really give it a crack. And I don't know why, but it's just that fast growth space in the creative industries that has always like made my heart sing. So I do less of that now because, you probably, as you can't take on so many CFO clients because it's all consuming, and there is also the business of hot toast that needs to be done as well. But it's definitely something that I love to do and being involved at that level.
How do you balance rapid growth against, and I'm going to use the word blowing out?
Yeah, at a hot toast level, or?
No, not when you're dealing with businesses and you're saying they're coming to you and they're going, we're going to go through rapid growth. How do you balance and keep them at the rapid growth stage, but don't let their bubble burst?
Yeah, you can grow too fast. You can grow broke, right? So, and I think that's where experience comes in and being really intentional. So, that's a really good question. So for me, it comes back down to discipline, and it's something that I've had to look at as well in my business, because it's also about resource allocation. So for me, I have a lot of touch points, regular touch points with the people that I work with, and we have a bit of a process that we go through as well. And it's me keeping them accountable to that as well, and it's me also having the hard conversations and saying, you can't have all of these things. Like, let's have a look at what this potentially looks like across the business and what's the opportunity cost to that as well. So, but it's also being flexible and agile enough to know that when you're in that world and things are growing really quickly, that you need to also be quite nimble. And so it's like, okay, well, is that an opportunity that we need to act on, or is that something that is like quarter 3, quarter 4, and like, stay true to the strategy? And this is where the discipline part comes in, because there's so much excitement when it's growing that fast, and there's so much energy. And that's why I always say, like, boring business is sexy business, because at the end of the day, it is still a building block game, right? Like, you can't have a shaky foundation with a fast growth business and then turn around when you're at 5 or 6 million and go, oh, okay, well, now we have to figure out what we're doing with our workflow and how do we know what's going on in the business and how do we know if people are accountable. So there is a bit of a planning to it and a bit of a discipline and a bit of a kind of accountability feature that you have as a CFO, which is really healthy. But it's also having the hard conversations. They're asking you into that room for your experience. And so you need to be able to push back on people and ask the hard questions so that, they get there themselves and they go, okay, we understand why it might not be the right thing to do to go in that direction at the moment and hold the strategy at the moment.
It sounds like you are on the phone or contactable by them on a very regular basis, I'm sure, as they're going through that process. You're so important to them. So, Sarah, you've described having a unique connection with the creative industries due to your background in film and media and advertising, etc. How does this understanding of creative processes influence your advisory services?
It's not just my advisory service. I think it's my whole approach. Everything that I do feel like I'm part of that industry. Like, I have a lot of friends and connections in that space. And because I've been on that journey with them, a lot of the things that I've adopted at Hot Toast has been because I've stolen them or copied them from my clients. So, no one was doing a distributed model I stole that from an amazing client that I had that was doing that in the agency space. You know, I'm B Corp this year. Like, I didn't even know what a B Corp was a couple of years ago, but it's the amazing clients that I have now that go, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the impact that we want to have. So because I'm still really closely aligned with the advisory space, like I always say that we do actually spin up advisory services based on the conversations that I have with my clients. Once I start hearing things repeated and asked for, you know, over a period of time, then I start listening and I start going, okay, well, there's a demand here. You know, it is part of, for me, it's just another extension of what we do in the advisory space. So how can we build that out as well? So, you know, we were doing back in 2016, we were doing building customized dashboards, you know, with developers overseas, just because we just had so many clients going, hey, can you do this for us? How do we bring in the data point from Salesforce, and how do we bring it in from our workflow match and from also Xero? So we were like, okay, well, let's figure out a way to do that. Okay, let's get a developer in the room. Let's build those out. So, you know, the same with, you know, we're building robots at the moment, and also our sustainability services. All of it's been an evolution, but it's all come from us having really healthy conversations with our clients and going, how can we deliver us a value-added service? And I think, I'm going to go off track here, but I think that's when I look at the industry in 5 years' time. That's where I'll see our industry going in the space that I want to see us in. You know, we are the conductors of these advisory services. We are the people that are the gatekeepers for our clients, and we're also able to service them and then put them in contact with the right people. So that's how I see Hot Toast, and hopefully that's, you know, been really beneficial for our clients.
Absolutely. So listening to you, I can definitely understand why you have won so many Australian Accounting CFO awards. So congratulations on that. What advice do you have for aspiring CFOs? Is it just join your company?
No, I mean, but definitely reach out. No, I think as a CFO, you're in a beautiful position. Like, if you're coming from industry specifically, I think you're in a beautiful position to leverage all of that experience that you have, and, you know, talking to different departments, sitting in strategy meetings, working with executives. You know, the role of the CFO has changed so much over the last decade, and you're in a fortunate position where you can bring all that skill sets and then basically, you know, leverage those with your clients. So I would say a couple of things. I would say make sure you're really intentional about your service lines. I'd also say don't undersell yourself. I would say, you know, anyone that's coming out of industry and is half decent CFO knows the base salary that we can claim in industry. So make sure that you don't undersell yourself, because you are such a valuable resource for small and medium business owners. And I would also say build out your network, because just like in life, business is a team sport, and we are as strong as the network that we have around us. So you don't need to do all the things. You might not be a tax agent. You might not be a sustainability expert. You might not be all these other things, but you can be the person that starts that conversation, and you can be the person that then basically leans on your network, so that you help your network and your network helps you. So, you know, we're a super collaborative industry, and I think that's what success looks like as a CFO. And then you can have an amazing business in that space. So, yeah, that's the advice I'd give.
Thank you, Sarah. So, Sarah, you're a tech and you're an automation expert. What are some of the key technologies that you've integrated maybe in your business or that you use with your clients?
Yeah, so I think initially we've had a bit of a tech journey. So we, you know, we did start building our own dashboards because we felt like there was nobody in the marketplace at that stage that could really offer our clients what they needed from a 360 perspective from their businesses. We've now not pushed any further into that space in terms of like actually physically building the like dashboards. But we still do a lot of like, you know, dashboard builds with data connectors. I'm a big fan of G-Accon. I really love that tool. It's such a beautiful little connector that we pull lots of data out. We use with Google Sheets. The creatives love Google Sheets, and they love zeros. So to be able to like just link those two up and then kind of manipulate those into our own kind of models has been a massive win for us. In terms of anything else, we also use reporting SYFT, which has been really beneficial. We've kind of got these two levels of advisory now that sit in Hot Toast. We've kind of got like your management accountant advisory, which is quite, those kind of touch points on a monthly or quarterly basis. We tend to use SYFT in that respect. With anything that's more customized, we'll use G-Accon, and then we'll basically just get in there and have a field day building models and whatnot, which has been really beneficial. And then the next part of that is we're looking at the moment, we're basically looking at AI, and we're looking at machine learning and going, okay, well, what's the next phase look like for us, and how can we drive efficiency for our clients in that space?
It's very, very exciting, and a true management accountant who is excited by the data they can surface.
So I've just started to learn coding, and I am losing my mind, Heather. Like, I'm such a nerd, but I reckon we're all nerds. So I'm doing, because I did a finance degree, because I actually wanted to be a stockbroker. I wanted to be on the trading floor, like doing the deals. That never eventuated. But so I've done finance, and I'm back to doing regressions and structured and unstructured data, and I am just having a ball. And I'm like, this is easy. Like, every accountant should be doing this. We should all be learning code. It's all about mathematics.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to teach at university. I'm not sure if you know that, but I used to teach the Accounting 101 class, and the last few modules were coding, and they used to get me to teach coding, which is, I'm sitting there learning it, going, like I'd literally learn the night before I teach it. And it was a community effort, because frequently the students knew more than I did. So I went to.
I mean, just on that, I'd say it's a real opportunity for a client, for the accounting space as well. Again, we don't need to do the thing, but I definitely think that it's beneficial for us to understand it, like
to absolutely know enough to go, okay, this is where we need to go, or this is what we should do with it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about soccer. Talk to me about your involvement with soccer and how.
I knew you'd bring this up. I'm such a diehard soccer fan. So I have been playing soccer for a very long time, Heather. Gosh, I started at high school, and then I went overseas, and I kind of finished. I kind of didn't play through my 20s too much, and then we got back from London and we moved to Australia. And the great thing about sport is it brings people together. You have instant community. So we turned up to Sydney, and we didn't know anybody because we were from the Central Coast. So we so I joined.
For our overseas listeners, that's like a 2-hour distance, isn't it? We didn't know anyone. They didn't look the same as us.
They just didn't look the same. The big city versus the Central Coast. They only let us out once a year. So I joined the soccer club, and I've been playing ever since. So and then I've got a gorgeous little girl, Ella, who is 3 years old. But when I was pregnant with Ella, I got really sick, probably from like 2 weeks in, and it absolutely floored me. And so from someone that's always been quite active, and into their sport, to be floored and not be able to do anything. And so whilst I was pregnant, I was basically like going, okay, when's the next time I'm going to play soccer? Like, think about the positives. When am I going to get back out there and do my thing? And also, just FYI for everyone listening, like, we're over 30s. Like, we're not the Matildas, even though we think we are. Like, and so I just started talking to the club, and I was like, they're like, oh, we've tried to get the over 30s up and running before, but like, we haven't really had any, it kind of dropped off because of the numbers. And so I was like, that's okay. I'll sort it out. So I went around to all the different clubs. I got everybody to get some interest. I rallied all the girls because we've all played with each other for over a decade. And then we got our first comp up and running. I think I had Ella and I was playing less than 10 weeks after I had her. We were back on for the first round of over 30s in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. So but what I realized is like probably, that was the thing that I needed to focus on so I didn't feel so crappy whilst I was sick for 9 months. But what I realized is it's such a great way for other women to come together in their 30s and 40s and older, especially ones that have really young kids, and it's not about them, so it's for 2 hours a week or whatever it is. It's about us. It's about us having a laugh with each other, doing some exercise, and just connecting. And I think, and that's why I love so much about it. So, and this year I've just set up the second team for Coogee. And so we've got over 100 women in the eastern suburbs in Sydney, and like, we're all very competitive across all the clubs, but I'd like to think we also genuinely like each other as well. Yeah.
That's fabulous. What a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Sarah. So let's talk about the global women's accounting influencers. So you and I came together along with Alex Falcon Harata, and we launched the GWAI. Can you tell me your side of the story?
Yeah, so that we basically had a conference in Singapore at the end of last year, and after too many Singapore slings, I'd say, at the long bar in Singapore, GWAI was born. I think I came to that table with a level of frustration, which I told you the story about. So a couple of months prior to that, I've always known that, maybe I'll be interested in being on boards, maybe at some stage, not right now, but maybe later on down the track in 5 to 7 years. That's something that I could potentially push into. And I thought maybe I'll start that journey now. Maybe I'll go to, reach out to different training institutions and find out if it's something that I can start from a training perspective. And I got a phone call back really quickly from quite a well-known one in Australia. And within a couple of minutes, I started talking, telling him about my story, and the question came back to me. It's like, oh, well, how old are you? And I said, oh, I'm just about to turn 40, or just turned 40. And the response back to me was, look, I probably shouldn't say this, which always means you probably shouldn't. You should be a little bit more articulate in how you do say it. But he's like, in Australia, realistically, they're not going to look at you for a publicly listed board until you're 50 years old. And I just thought, that's just such BS. Like, that is just such BS, because there's definitely 40-year-old men that are out there at the moment that are sitting quite comfortably on publicly listed boards. And that's not even the start of their career, their board career. And so I came to that table with a certain level of frustration. I think probably all of us have some kind of story that has a similar thread to that. And so I think probably born out of frustration and genuinely wanting us all to rise as an industry, and just get better opportunities and better outcomes, Heather. Like, I don't want to have somebody else have that conversation. I want somebody to get that phone call and go, wow, look at your experience. Maybe you don't have a lot of board experience, but this is the pathway that you can go on. Or this is what this potentially looks like. Or you know what, go and reach out to Sarah, because she's a couple of years down the track on that journey and she can tell you how she did it. And so that's, for me, what I hope that I can bring to GWAI. It's a beautiful community of women across the globe that, hopefully want to support and help lift each other and just get better outcomes and results. And it's a really beautiful community as well in there at the moment. So
It absolutely is. And so a couple of things that I kind of want to throw out there is, firstly, lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds listen to this podcast. If you have a board position, or if you're in a position to educate people about moving along that journey, please reach out to Sarah. Please reach out to us. Please reach out to someone who perhaps doesn't look like every other person on that board. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is you can find out about GWAI and join our community. It's for female accountants in practice who are influencing, and influencing can take many, many different shapes and forms. It can be as what Sarah does in advocating via the CPA and doing a lot of work that way, but also speaking on stage, winning awards, etc. So influencing can come in many shapes and forms, but you're welcome to reach out to us, and I'll put the website in the notes. So in researching the questions today, Sarah, I came across this email. So stick with me, people. I'm trying not to sound too narcissistic as I write this email out. But you sent it to me on the 11th of October 2019. So we had just met and been at our first Singapore accounting conference together. We love our Singapore accounting conferences, so I'll put a link to that in there as well. And I'm doing the 2024 one this year, which should be fabulous. But we just met and I'd seen you on stage and we got to spend a lot of time together. And in it you say, so this is 11th of October 2019. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much. I feel like I've just had a masterclass from both you and Jodie Paydar on how to navigate the industry, and I'm so appreciative, blah, 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 blah. I took your advice and I emailed Accountants Daily and about contributing, and they got back to me and said I could write a column and are happy for me to have me on their podcast. So excited. And so that was dated 11th of October, and I went and had a look at Accountants Daily, and you were published on Accountants Daily on, what's this? Getting my thing up there, 1st of November. So about 3 weeks later, they had you writing for them, and it was the article was "So You Want to Be a CFO." So I wanted to share that for two reasons: is that women can help women, women can help women, and it doesn't need to be very much whatsoever to push each other along. And conferences are just full of these amazing conversations with people, and I think you've benefited from them. I've benefited from them, and incidental, accidental conversations because some amazing people have gone there. And people always go, "Why do you go to overseas conferences?" Because they can just expand your mind incredibly, sharpen your iron, and just open you up to so many possibilities.
Thank you for sharing that, Heather. I mean, I remember that. And that article in Accountants Daily, I remember I got such positive feedback from it. And I was so scared to write that at the time. I was like, oh God, is anyone going to want to hear this? Is this going to actually land with anyone? And I really got a positive response. But I mean, for those of you that don't know Heather personally, what you do outside, and it's going to be a love fest now, but
no, you don't need to.
No, but I do want to say this because I don't think people actually realize. A lot of people see Heather, you are the influencer in the industry, but what people actually don't understand about Heather is that she has so many behind closed doors conversations with so many women in this industry. And she is our hype girl. She is our cheerleader. She is the person that is like, this is how you can navigate this. This is what this can look like. And having people like you like that now allows me to be like that to other people as well. Like I now mentor other girls that have just started in the public practice area. I sit down with them, for a couple of hours and we just go through and it's like, how can I help you? What can I do? So it's like that energy then transfers to other people in the industry, and that's what actually matters, right? Like if you want to have an impact, that's how you do it. Like all the other shiny, sparkly stuff is fine and it's fun and all the rest of that. But if you actually want to make an impact on a day-to-day basis with somebody, that's how you do it. So thank you from all of the people that I know that you reach out, because we've all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. But my emphasis is it doesn't take very much because it's just a conversation and push people along on a journey and open up possibilities. And likewise with the someone could come along and have a conversation with you about a board, and bam, it could open up things. So it doesn't take very much to reach out and help someone.
Yep, it's very true.
So thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me on the podcast today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience, and how can people get in contact with you?
I think I've touched on everything, but I think you leave on a really great point around like the community in this industry. Like if you're starting out, if you're struggling, if something's happening out there for you, like just know that, you know, this community can come and get their arms around you, and that we are here to help you, and you can lean into that. So whether that is at an event, or whether that is like an online community, like, you know, people are more than happy to help and make sure that we can lend a hand. So yes, that's what I'd end on. And just thank you so much for having me, Heather.
It was wonderful. And how can people get in contact with you, Sarah?
Oh, on LinkedIn.
On
Come
LinkedIn.
find me on LinkedIn.
So it's Sarah Lawrence with Sarah AA, Lawrence AA. I always spell it with an E. And then I'm like, where has she gone? Has she left me? And I go through this drama every single time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Heather.